Hello, folks, and welcome to the Captain's Academy, where today we'll go over your upgrade options for the Phoenix Starworks Bushranger. The Bushranger is an early start HV designed to get the player going with forays into a little bit of everything that gets players experience early on. From critter busting to mining and light POI assault, or to act as a small mobile base, players will find a good array of utility from the Bushranger before ultimately moving on. So let's have a look at what the Bushranger comes with. Bushranger comes stock with two miniguns, seating for two additional passengers, oxygen dispenser, Wi-Fi, armor locker, and fridge, as well as placement for additional upgrades. So let's have a look at that placement. One thing to note is that the CPU is close to cap when you spawn in, so you do have placement for a little wiggle room there, but you should be looking to upgrade your CPU, and so you have a little bit of placement here in the back cargo bed. You also have placement depending on if you're solo or how many other passengers would be accompanying your forays. You could remove one or more of these seats and place there. Now, it is intended that this placement here would be for the constructor. So you want to remove your blocks here till you get to the basic generator. So this would be placement for your constructor there. Now, you can opt to not do that and place CPU there, at which point you could take this bed and commit that to other things. But before we move on to that, let's have a look at another option here. So it comes with two basic generators. Now, this is sufficient to run the systems on board that it comes with, as well as the placement of the constructor. You should be able to move and construct. But it's the efficiency is going to start to wind down a little bit. So what I recommend doing is, in order to make this more efficient, just go ahead and pull those out and put in your this guy here, the small generator. So that could make things more efficient. Now, again, you could go with the constructor there if you wanted to, or you could just opt not to do that if you have another role for this build. So you could just go ahead and place CPU there. And what you do here, that's up to you. Maybe you could go one improved and you could put another improved here. Okay, so with this bed, you got a couple options you can go with. Yeah, I guess you could place a trauma station. That would be one thing, if you don't want to place your CPU there. So that could open that up. A little bit of healing. Now, if you're not rolling with a tent, if that's not your thing, and you want to go with a clone chamber, you can place that in the back of this vehicle. That is an option. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to cut out some of the cargo here. So container extensions, you'll lose about 400 or so doing that. And then what you're going to do is take off the tailgate, so call it. Of course, you want to remove the shutter door. So then now you could place that. Let's hang it off a little bit and remove that one. Okay, that would be your placement. And then you could, if you're doing like a full medical run of this thing, maybe you're doing it for some light POI assault or farming Xerax or something of that nature. That could be your configuration right there like that. So, a medical buggy, if you will. So another option, what you could go with is, rather than doing that, if you wanted to do a shield configuration, that's an option. Although keeping in mind, there's issues, if it hasn't changed, there's issues with the pilot still being vulnerable, being that it's an open cockpit. So that's a thing. Now, if the rounds don't hit one of the blocks and they hit you, I don't think the shield works, again, unless that's changed. So what we could be looking at here for that configuration would be something to this effect. You may want to go that. You'd want to keep the tailgate, obviously. I guess maybe your Pentaxid, you could do something like that, or maybe rotate that. You probably want to keep your passengers away from that, so you could wall this up with blocks. That way you don't radiate yourself. That would be fine. Maybe you want to put some armor blocks here to cover this up. So that could be an option. Maybe the configuration could, let's see how that would go. Yeah, so maybe it would be something like this. Then you want to put some armor blocks out. Maybe something a little stylish. Or perhaps rather, something like that. Just armored up. Doesn't look too bad. So you could go with that shield configuration. And then, of course, you would spin the CPU where the constructor slot would be. Perhaps the CPU would go here. Or it could go here, depending on, again, how many people are rolling with you. So with thrusters, it's just a simple replacement. You're starting out with medium thrusters, so just slot in some medium advanced, and this should be sufficient to carry all of your equipment and any sort of upgrades. Full cargo, I would suspect that's the case. If not, you could just always slot in some larges here. But otherwise, the thrust should be sufficient there. Okay, so obviously you could upgrade the weaponry here. Should be pretty much common sense. So maybe a recommendation is to go with perhaps like one missile for drone defense. It's easier to lock on the targets in the air with the guided missiles. That could be an option. Another thing you have going on is you could have a little bit of turret placement. So you want to remove that deco and then these light blocks here. So then that's going to open up your minigun placement, or maybe rather than a minigun, you could go with a tool turret. And so multi-tool to salvage, or a drill turret. So then you could like hover over the ores and just aim down on the ground and harvest that way. That's an option. So as far as the front end, there's a couple options here. You could put a harvester up. Probably want to put a solid block or something here to, kind of give that aesthetic value. Something like that. I guess that would work. Now, you could then pair that up with a drill. So you have two lights, and you're not going to need two of them. So you could consume this line here. Get rid of that guy. So there you go. Got a little utility vehicle now. So what you could do is you could run around popping rocks, and that'll give you some pretty good experience. Again, the harvest is, it's not that substantial, 3,600, but it's enough to run for a little while. You can make runs to resource nodes and run back to base. So again, with the open cockpit issue, you can mitigate that to a little bit of effect here. So what you could do is help to resist some overhead shots. You could pull these blocks out and put that over, so you have a top canopy. So You know, perhaps that could help protect you from some drone fire. Yeah, that's an option. Yeah, this is what your constructor will look like. So it gives you a good range of utility. Um, Everything pretty accessible here. You got your constructor, O2 station. Um, Now, there's a number of things you could use this for. You could just expand the ammo if you wanted to go card container systems. You know, link it up to that, or well, I guess that's kind of it. A small little petite build, but you know, it's got a little bit of character, and you can stretch it out a little bit, you know, till you're ready to upgrade into something a little more serious. You know, maybe you're ready to move on to an SV or get that first CV and roll out. It is a small profile, so that's a really good plus with it. You're gonna be able to find that you can fit this thing in a lot of some of the smaller CVs that you might be spawning in with. You know, for those who are familiar with the Cataphract, another one of my builds, this is a scale comparison. So yeah, quite a small build, but a lot of utility coming out of this thing. The Bushranger. Make sure I didn't forget anything here. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's pretty much all the function. Um, all right. That's it, folks. If you enjoyed my content so far, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe, as this helps the channel grow and also keeps you informed about content to come. For anyone else interested in joining the fleet of Patreons that I have, there's a link in the pinned comment below. Patrons do get insider exclusive and insight into my thoughts and plans about future builds, and I do appreciate your show of support from these massive time sinks of builds with your patronage, as some of which take more than a month to complete. Thank you, folks. Till next time, LyfeForce out.